What up, Fluent Hustle? Happy Monday. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I have Mr. Stephen Crawford, the senior consultant of McGhee Productivity. This gentleman has been by my side since I've been here in Denver for the last year and a half or so. Thank you very much for coming on board, Stephen.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to call you Steve because I know that during your presentations you always indicate Steve. You're a senior consultant at McGhee Productivity. You are a co-owner of Crawford & Gray. You are a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. So we really appreciate your effort and commitment to providing a serviceman. You're a husband and father of 4 children. Yep. You are a world business traveler. Man, how do you find the time to make it happen?
Well, that's the thing. The key is finding the time. There's only so much time in a day. And that's why we espouse that you use your calendar to plan the things that matter most, because the calendar has boundaries and it's realistic. And the way I find the time is by practicing what I preach and what we teach and consult with on Take Back Your Life.
Well, we really appreciate that, and that's something we definitely want to talk about later on. Is the program you have with McGhee Productivity about taking back your life. I sat in one of your workshops about 4 or 5 months ago, which was with Jamie Kane, right?
Yeah, Jamie O'Kane.
Jamie O'Kane, and the insight and the takeaways you were able to provide me was life changing overall. So I really appreciate you. Giving me that opportunity to sit down that, but then hopefully you give some opportunity to our audience, just some quick takeaways on what they can do to be able to make that happen. And I want to give a quick shout out to Brad Rips. I know you're going to be watching us later on at Northwestern Mutual. He's the one that introduced you and I together. We had grabbed coffee over the summer, and there's a saying that I follow through and that I've heard from many other people, that everything happens for a reason. And I swear, the minute I met you and we sat down and we were able to connect, it was meant to be. You have been a gentleman that has supported me throughout my transition from my corporate career to kicking off Fluent Hustle, and you've reached out to me on the side and gave me the encouragement to say, you know what, you're doing something special, you're doing something right. So I just want to really thank you so much right now on the show and let you know that it means a lot, the support you've given us so far, and obviously moving forward as well. So
well, it's absolutely an honor. It's one of the things that I love about networking and meeting people is trying to surround yourself with good people. There's plenty of people out there that are bad influences or who have ulterior motives.
Yes. When
you have an opportunity to meet somebody that you connect with, like Alex, like you, like so many people that are part of the Fluent Hustle group, is if they're great people, you just want to root for them. You want to do everything you can to help them.
Right.
Whether it's you're mentoring them, or you're just supporting them, you're giving them advice, or if they're mentoring you. Just surrounding yourself with good people is a key thing, especially for entrepreneurs, but it goes all the way up to the highest level of organizations.
So it turns out that I'm from Chicago, and you lived in Illinois as well, and Wisconsin as well, or no?
No, Wisconsin, but Chicago area.
Okay, yeah. Chicago area. So I can remember if you're in Wisconsin or not, but let's talk about our backyard. I'm going back to Chicago later on this week, and you were just out there for a short bit. But let's talk about your upbringing and who you are and what's instilled in you that has gotten you to where you are today. I'm always about learning one's journey. I think it's very important in building a relationship and understanding who individuals are. I guess the first question is, if you can go back when you're a young boy, what was your dream job?
Back then, I wanted to be an architect. In fact, that's when I got my first degree in college, and was architecture. All through high school, that was my interest. I actually went to vocational school before high school, so my day started at 5:30 a.m. I'd go to vocational school for 2 hours, then go to high school, study architecture. I had won some scholarships and some state competitions, and that really just kept giving me the juice to really pursue that.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to be, and that's what I really loved at the time, but I made a change.
Well, I can totally see that your analytical skills have come back to play into your career now today. So I didn't know that you wanted to be an architect when you were younger. Hey guys, Ira Coleman here, the founder of Fluent Hustle. We are a community that empowers, promotes, and help entrepreneurs achieve more through the stories of other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs throughout the community. So if you're watching this, please go ahead and like and share. I'm going to go to my Facebook Live right now, my personal page, and I'm going to share this. And then I want you guys to go ahead and do the same. Make a comment, ask a question. This way we can get out there the promotion of Stephen and what he's doing over at McGhee Productivity overall. So You mentioned that when you were younger, your dream job was to be an architect, and you found a degree in that. What was your first job?
My first job out of college?
First job in general, whether it was a paper boy, waiter, server?
First job in general, there was several. I grew up very lower class income, suburbs of Chicago. We didn't have a lot. So I went to work early. I had newspaper routes.
Yes.
I was shoveling snow and mowing grass. I was washing dishes for cash under the table at a pizza place. I was doing everything I could to bring some money in.
Yeah.
And that taught me early on two things. One, the value of a dollar. I was never spendthrifty. I don't really care too much about material things. And it also taught me a great work ethic and contributing to the family even at a very young age. And going out there and working. And being productive with every minute you have in a day. Instead of watching cartoons, you can be out, doing something.
Right. How many siblings you got?
I have two. I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay, so you're a middle child.
Middle child, only boy. So
okay.
All the stereotypes about that probably true with me.
Okay.
Overachiever, the whole deal.
Being a middle child, being an only boy, did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on you young to make it happen? You talking about that you grew up in lower class, I guess you say.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of pressure did you face to find that success?
Yeah, I did feel pressure, mostly because the upbringing that I had with my father, with my grandfather, they were both very hardworking men. So the example was set for me that you worked hard. You didn't complain about it. You just did it.
Right.
You did whatever you had to do for the family. And then those same kind of things weren't there for my sisters. They didn't really have that kind of pressure on them. They didn't really have to start working as early. But for me, it was probably more self-imposed than anything.
Sure.
I don't recall anybody ever saying to me, "Hey, Steve, you have to have a job before school and after school and on the weekends." I don't think that ever happened. It was just kind of in my DNA that
you took the initiative to say, "Hey, I got to support myself. I got to support my family." Overall, and I see that in a lot of individuals that are thriving to find a success is, it's one thing to be told, hey, you have to get a job, but you're very resistant on it, right? But when you say, I'm going to go out there and make it happen for myself and make it happen for the ones around me, it's just a whole nother challenge that you're accepting to take on, and I definitely pick up on that from you. So, going through college, where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Southern Illinois University.
Good old Southern.
Salukis.
Yeah, Salukis. Yeah. I went to Saluki town for maybe 3 months and bounced out and said that the traditional college scene down there wasn't right for me. So I think my last weekend there was Halloween weekend, which was definitely a fun weekend.
Yeah, that's if you're trying to judge where to go to school, that's not the weekend to go there. It's a good time for a partying, though.
Yep. So, how did you end up coming to Colorado, and what's the story behind that?
So when after my associate degree in architecture, I changed my major. I had realized as much as I loved architecture, I already knew by that point that I needed something where I could be out in front of people, be a leader. And in architecture, for those of you that are familiar with it, even after you get all the degrees and certifications, you spend a lot of time in an apprenticeship, working your way up.
Right.
And that didn't excite me. I wanted to be a leader. Everything I had done up until that point, I was always thrust into the lead. Sports teams through grade school all the way through college, my fraternity, every job I had, I was always put out in front of the lead. In the Marine Corps, I was made a squad leader in boot camp. I graduated first in my class in engineer school. I was just always a leader.
Wow.
So I said, man, do I really want to sit in an office somewhere and be apprenticed and drawing and doing all this for a period of time? No, I want to get into management. So after I graduated with my bachelor degree, I decided I wanted to get into management. I didn't care where it was. So I accepted an opportunity for a management trainee position at a consumer finance company called Transamerica. And basically, I was a receptionist. So here I am with 2 college degrees, and I came in entry level. But they were brilliant about how they did that. They started you at the very basic entry level point, and you learned every role. The processor role, the loan officer role, the assistant manager role, the manager role, as you got promoted in the company. And
that really makes you appreciate the small details it takes to then lead down the road.
Absolutely, and you know everybody else's job that's in your charge when you get to that next level.
Right.
Well, people have a lot of respect for you when they know you've done those things. So anyway, I got into consumer finance, and that took me down the path of mortgage lending and ultimately into business process outsourcing. And what brought me to Colorado was the company I was with at the time in Chicago promoted me to vice president of central production. And that office happened to be in Denver, Colorado. And at the time I was single, and I was like, hey, if that's where the opportunity is, I'll go out there. And I thought maybe I'd come out to Colorado for a few years, and then get back to Chicago. And as soon as I got out here, I fell in love with it. I haven't left. I've been here 20 years now.
It's hard not to fall in love with this city. I mean, I know the winters have changed a little bit in the last couple of years, but, the last 2 years I've been here, they've been pretty mild winters, which is very enjoyable. It's 300 plus days of sunshine. I mean, I talk about this probably the last 3 or 4 videos we've done.
Right.
And today is supposed to be, near 60 degrees, and it's super sunny outside. So it's hard not to enjoy this, this lifestyle that Denver has to offer.
Yeah, and it's got a great culture around here too. It took me a minute to adjust, to be honest with you. When I first moved out here, the work pace was slower. I talk about this quite a bit. Coming from Chicago, and folks on the East Coast know it's a grind, man. It's hustle all the time. It's go, 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 go.
Yep.
And I came out here and I had a staff of about 380 people at the time. And everybody moved just a little slower than I was accustomed to, and in fact, a little slower than my liking.
Yep.
And I kind of grouped my managers together and said, hey guys, what am I missing here? Why is it that everything's so much slower here? The pace of life is so much slower, the work's so much slower. And they said, you got to meet us in the middle on that.
Yep.
We're not all going to be out there like Steve Crawford and going 10,000 miles an hour. But I appreciated that feedback because it gave me an opportunity to kind of sit back and just adapt a little bit to what the culture was like. And then I did get more out of them. They did raise their game up a little bit. We did meet in the middle, and we were a highly productive team. But I wasn't, driving them to false expectations.
Man, I can't tell you how much I relate to what you just said. Like when I moved out here, it was a business culture shift for me. Being in Chicago was grind, pound, make it happen, make quick decisions, yes or no's, and that was from a staff perspective and a team perspective, but then also from a consumer and client perspective as well. Is that I got hit right in the nose real quick about that approach, so it allowed me to. You have to adjust, you have to pivot, and in order to be a leader, you have to recognize that out the gates to be able to say, hey, you know what. Not everyone's going to be at the same pace as me, but if I can just pull them in the right direction along with me, then you can always find that opportunity of success with your team.
Absolutely.
So everything
just to even talking a little slower, not that they couldn't comprehend that, but just that's what they were comfortable with. The pace of speech, your pentameter, so to speak. The rhythm of how you talk. When I first came out here, I was the mile a minute guy, like a lot of folks.
The gunslinger, like here comes the gunslinger, closing deals.
Slow it down a little bit, especially with this powerful voice I have. It's a blessing and a curse. If you're talking loudly and fast, people can really easily take that as like you're upset or you're yelling at them. So when I had kids, that helped temper that for me a little bit too.
Good. And how many kids do you have? 4, right?
Yeah, 4.
And I know you're on LinkedIn. You shared a picture over the holidays.
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving.
And beautiful family and a dog.
Yeah, and a dog.
And I know how much you really cherish your family, and you're a faith-oriented, man. And I know how important it is to make sure that you do the things for your family.
Absolutely.
Your wife and your family, without a shadow of a doubt, is a major pillar for you, right? What more have you used that as a why and a purpose to get to where you need to be moving forward?
So my ultimate why is I want to have an impact on people. That's why I left the corporate world that I was in. I had a lot of success, was very high-level executive, loved it, was very good at it, but I wasn't seeing myself making the impact on people that I used to be able to make when I was in the management and senior management ranks. And I really just want that impact.
Yeah.
And whether that's through what I do for business, like at McGhee, I have that's fulfilling. What I do with Crawford and Gray, what I do through my church, with the Bible studies I lead, the mentoring I do there, and with my family. And as a father, one of the things that is most important, I think, as far as giving a contribution to others is not only how you raise your kids and how you can contribute to them, but that you make them humans who go out and do the same thing.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say that my children are all very, very giving, very generous. They all are very involved with various community things, and that's not because I told them to. It's because that's how they were brought up, and a lot of that credit goes to my wife, of course.
Good,
And
good.
you know, it's just great to see that they're becoming adults. They're all teenagers now. I have one in college, 3 in high school, and just to see how they're contributing to their friends and to their community through church and other things is awesome, and that's fulfilling.
Well, you got to be very proud of that.
Absolutely.
And you know, for you to go back and reflect on those years, you know, they're all teenagers. I don't have any kids, but I know how hard my mom worked to just give me, you know, enough, and then also give me the foundation, and then also just feed me, you know, the proper insight to, you know, do the right things. And I can tell you, I was not always a good child or a good kid. I got into a lot of trouble, as all my friends can probably tell you back in the day. But you learn from those situations. And I always say, you know what, get out of your system early on, so that way you're not doing it when you're an adult.
Well, you know what, and you know, I don't know your mother personally, but based on what I know about you and what you just said, you know, a lot of the most effective parents have this magic, and I'm hoping that I'm getting close to it, and that is how much guidance you give and direction you give and how much boundaries you put around your kids, but how much space you also give them.
Right.
And your mom gave you space to go out and make some mistakes. And those mistakes are important. We can't put our kids in a bubble and then they never experience any hardships, and then they go out in the real world and they get pummeled.
Right.
And they don't know how to handle it, right? So you got to go out there and get punched in the nose from time to time. You know, you got to trip over the crack in the sidewalk in order to get those experiences and be able to show that you have the resolve to get back up again and go take care of it. You know, wipe the blood off your nose and get off the sidewalk and go after it.
So let's transition on that same concept about taking that mindset into business. And, you know, getting punched in the nose and, you know, tripping on the cracks and getting pummeled. You know, throughout your experiences from the corporate world, being a leader, you know, from a company standpoint, but then also from, you know, running a business within the business yourself. What's your perspective on the individuals that have a high level of resiliency because that they actually put themselves through those trials and tribulations in running a business?
You know, certainly not being afraid to take some risk. You know, here in Colorado, we use the phrase "get out over your skis" a little bit.
Yes.
Right. So don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone is something that's really important. It's become kind of cliche lately. You hear it a lot.
Yes.
But it's true. Yeah. The most progress that you will have is when you're uncomfortable. If you're doing the same thing over and over and it's working great, that feels good at that time.
Complacency kicks in.
But yeah, your complacency kicks in and you're not doing anything new, so eventually your industry passes you by.
Right.
So you have to be always willing to try something new and try something different. And in the leadership standpoint, one of the ways to do that is to open up the door a little bit to vulnerability to the people on your team and start letting them have some say and input and get their ideas in there and encourage them to challenge you. Because as soon as you think or know that you have all the answers, you don't.
You learn real quick that you probably don't, right?
And yeah, you said something at the start here. You said the word entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So there's entrepreneurs out there, people that have started their own business. And, you know, I put a blog up a month ago about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Mostly targeted at a specific client of mine. But, you know, large firms, they get into a rut sometimes where they're doing the same thing, especially in technology, for example. They're doing the same thing over and over, and they're trying to be creative. And then these upstarts come up with all this cool stuff, and it starts to disrupt everything.
Yep.
And they're saying, how come we didn't think of that? Well, it's because you're putting boundaries around the people. This is their role, so you just keep them in that cage. Open it up a little bit and say, hey, if you have ideas or you want to challenge something, entrepreneurship, you know, come up with those ideas inside of the company instead of us having to go out and get ideas all the time. Let the creative juices flow inside of your company.
Right.
And if you can encourage that, you're going to get a lot of cool stuff happening right inside of your firm, whether you're big or small.
And when there's too many boundaries and the company's built around those boundaries, I know there's boundaries to protect the companies, boundaries to protect, you know, the stakeholders. But when there's too many boundaries and it's too rigid, it's hard for a company to pivot in those situations within the industry where these younger, smaller companies are popping up left and right. Is because they're not as restricted in making, you know, changes in, you know, being disruptive in the industry itself, right?
Well, and that's how you keep good people, right? If somebody could be doing a fantastic job for you, you're paying them well. From the leadership standpoint, you think everything is cool in the gang, right?
Right.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But that person's sitting there feeling frustrated because they're not empowered, they're not brought in on any decision making, nobody's listening to their ideas. So the leader thinks everything's great. They're sitting there frustrated. So then an upstart comes up and says, we value your ideas. We value the input that you have. even if it's less money, they're likely to bolt because
Right.
that opportunity is giving them what they want. Especially now with these younger generation, they want that input. They want that immediate, feedback. They want to know that they're contributing to something larger and they're part of the solution. And if you're not fostering an environment for that, you're not going to get that young talent, or you're not going to keep it.
And what's really cool about your experiences in business itself is, you work with Fortune 100 companies, 500 companies, or
All the way up to Fortune 100.
Okay, so Fortune 100 companies down to the solopreneur. So you're seeing a very broad perspective on how businesses are operating and what individuals are doing. What do you see happening right now within the small entrepreneurship community that needs to be integrated into those larger companies as well?
So what I find with entrepreneurs and with small businesses is they still have that hunger.
Yes.
Right? And they're not afraid to go out and scratch and claw a little bit. So they get involved in things and they try to drive their own destiny by having exposure, joining things like Fluent Hustle, networking with other like-minded individuals that, are out there trying to make that hustle happen.
Right.
And they can leverage this network that they have. What I see in bigger companies is there's a little bit less of that because, hey, we're the big guys.
Right.
We don't need to go out there and do all that. I think that's a miss. I think if you're part of the big company, not only can you benefit from that networking, but it's your opportunity to be generous with the things that you've learned and mentor and support somebody else. And if you have an opportunity to mentor and support somebody, take it. Because that's what this world revolves around, right? It's doing good by good people. So if you can mentor and contribute to somebody else, it's amazing the value you get back in that.
How about this perspective? Accepting mentorships from a younger generation or a smaller company, right? I've been reading on LinkedIn about how older business or more mature business individuals, right? They've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years are now, going to the younger generation and saying, hey, mentor me through this growth, technology growth, culture growth, speed and tech. I already mentioned technology, but speed of decisions. Are you starting to notice that within the companies you're working with, where these decision makers who are in big companies or they've been in the industry for a long time, they're like, hey, I need to be humbled and take a step back and invite the younger companies and or generations to help me out in that growth?
I see some of it. It's a slow burn. I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah.
Obviously from a self-fulfilling standpoint, I love doing that, and McGhee Productivity Solutions is a small company, and we work with some of the largest companies in the world,
right,
and as well as down to the entrepreneurs. So we are in that group, right? So they come to us, a smaller company, to consult them, to train them, to manage change management with them, which is an honor to do. But what you're talking about, more like kind of, hey, we're getting into this space, and there's all this new stuff happening. Why not go to the people that were part of developing that space and learn from them? And I think that's a great thing. And I do see some of it. I just think there needs to be more of it.
I would love to see more of it. When I started seeing some of the leaders in business in general, but then also some individuals here in Denver, they're like, hey, I need help in getting these answers, and to just be humbled and take a step back, like I said earlier, and go seek the ones who are pioneers, or they might be disrupting the situation. They did something for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously give them credit to at least educate and teach and mentor the ones that have been legacy play for a while. So
I just to get a spin on something too. So if I'm 30-year CEO at Fortune 500 company guy, and we're going down a path of there's a change in our industry and we need to get updated, right?
Right.
We need to be relevant in the space, and we're a little bit behind the times. I want to reach out to the people that know about it, right? And the people that are going to experience it. So I might have an idea that I think is going to work. I'm going to bounce it off that and say, how's this going to land with people like you? People that are young professionals, out of college just a couple of years. You guys are, upstart type guys. What do you think about this? Is this going to speak to you? Is this going to resonate? Because the idea I have, while it might be awesome, maybe that's speaking to a whole different generation. It's not my target market anymore. So you need to get that input and that feedback.
I love that. Guys, again, this is Fluent Hustle, the founder of Fluent Hustle, Ira Coleman. I'm here with Stephen Crawford, senior consultant with McGhee Productivity. We're about to delve deep into some business practicality and some feedback and some advice from Stephen. His many, many years from the corporate world, from the entrepreneurship world, but then also being a co-owner of McGhee. Crawford and Gray, which is a business where he helps serve other businesses within the business community itself. So productivity is something that you speak about heavily, taking back one's life. How many hours can someone get back within your program and working with you directly?
So individually, we have the Take Back Your Life program, which is around personal productivity. And then at a corporate level, we have a lot of change management programs. Our Take Back Your Life program can win you back up to 2 hours a day in productivity.
2 hours a day.
2 hours a day.
I mean, right now we just had daylight saving time, right? You lost 1 hour, right? Now we're talking about getting back 2 hours per day. And the individuals that I'm networking with, and I try and have a circle of influence with, they're always like, "There's not enough time in the day. I wish there was an extra hour. I wish there was an extra 2 hours in the day, right? 5, 10, 15 hours a day." But that's not realistic. So working on the personal side and bring back those 2 hours. What are some just simple takeaways that people can start implementing right now moving forward without giving away the magic?
Right. Well, there's a lot of things. Number one of the biggest ways that we lose time is based on the interruptions that we allow.
Yes.
We get interrupted so often, and every time we get interrupted when we're trying to work on something that requires focus, there's a 3 to 5 minute recovery time from that.
Wow.
So if that happens to you 10 times a day, that's a half hour or an hour wasted just in recovering from being interrupted.
Right.
And what I mean by interruptions are things like your smartphone, the chime and buzz. We're in a meeting right now, so you put your phone on vibrate because you don't want it to ring while you're in the meeting.
It still vibrates.
But you know what? It still vibrates. And then what happens is people take it and they're holding it underneath the desk or the conference room table.
Oh, I see that all the time. Yeah. So and I do it myself too, right? Yeah. So I'm at fault more than anyone else probably.
You get distracted, so you're not paying attention to what's happening in that meeting. If it's a meeting worth being in, it's a meeting worth being present at.
Right.
Meaning you shouldn't be distracted by anything. Same thing at our desk. We're working on a project and we get that thing that pops up and says you have email.
Yeah.
You get sucked into that inbox. You click on that thing, and now you're in your inbox, and what are you doing? You're not working on your project. You're not doing your focus time. You're getting sucked into the bane of all things evil, which is that inbox that has all this stuff in it. So you're getting sucked into that. So one of the things you can do to manage some of that is to turn off your phone when you're going into meetings or you're doing focus time. Those emails or voicemails will be there when you get back. Turn off those notifications on your computer, so when you're in focus time, you're not getting that interruption.
Right.
And to be proactive about how you process your email.
Right.
Go in there, set time on your calendar in the morning and in the afternoon, half hour each time, and say, that's when I'm going to process my email. I'm going in there, I'm making decisions with my email. I'm opening it, and I'm touching it one time and making the decision.
Quick decisions, right?
Because email is really one of three things. It's either trash, it's reference, or it's action.
Right.
If it's trash, delete it. Get it out of there. If it's reference, meaning you don't have to take any action on it, but you need to keep a copy of it, go ahead and drop it into your folder. And then if it's action, you got two choices. If it's something you can do in less than 2 minutes, just go ahead and knock it out and get it out of the way. If it's going to take longer than that, we show you how to create tasks and defer that using shortcuts like task and file or task and delete, which get those things put into your task system and they're out of your inbox. And they're categorized, they have dates you're going to do them, and they'll show up in your tasking. So you're getting that email process at set times in the day, leaving you the opportunity to get work done during the day.
One thing I learned early on in my career, but resonated with me again, that I know I was lacking on at your workshop, was creating folders. And and having those folders, especially if similar emails keep on coming in around a similar topic, is you create a folder around that topic, right? And at the time, I'm managing 3 different sets of emails. One's for my nonprofit, one's for my for-profit, one's for my career. Right. And and dipping into each of those emails at any particular point in the day can sideline me and distract me heavily from wanting to really focus on an ongoing basis. It's one thing to have a laptop with logging into your email, but then you get your cell phone device, and that becomes a whole other monster. Right. on being distracted and on a regular basis. But I know that being intentional and then managing the inbox with quick decisions. Delete it. take action on it or defer. Is that what you said? Yeah. So
and then there's also delegate. So delete's my favorite. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Delegate's my second favorite, right? Let somebody else do it.
Right.
So you send it on and let somebody else take care of that. But the reason it's important is because work really comes down to three things. We have meetings, we have email, and then we have doing our actual job. And what happens is people...
And the actual job is the most important out of all that, right?
And people get so bogged down with meetings and email all day that they don't get to actually work on the stuff they're meant to work on.
Right.
So that's why they're going home at night and throwing open the laptop and getting to work again after dinner from home, and they're not getting that work-life balance. If you had 2 hours a day more productivity during your work, you wouldn't have to do that as often. And you'd be not only more productive at work, but you'd have a better sense of control because when you left that day, things are in order. And when you come in the next day, your calendar's all teed up and you're ready to go.
I've recently read some reviews from McGhee Productivity Solutions website, which I believe is McGheepro.com. Just go to testimonials and reviews. And some of the clients you're working with, I mean, they're big brand names and they're executives at a high level, right? And for these individuals to be making heavy decisions, managing a lot of different people, you say you manage almost 400 individuals here in Colorado when you moved out here, right? Yep. And you work with some of those clients that are in the hundreds, if not near thousands of employees, and they have to make quick decisions. And down to the solopreneur, right? I mean, the solopreneur has just as important decisions to make as well,
right?
Especially when their whole business and livelihood is based on those decisions coming very soon. What like success stories come to mind from the work that you've helped individuals out with when it comes to taking back their life and being most productive, so that way they can really take that 2 hours and use it towards that life balance that everyone deserves to have at the end of the day?
So one of the biggest things is working from your calendar instead of from a to-do list or your inbox. If you're working from your calendar, what you're doing is you're setting up that baseline calendar a week in advance. So I do a weekly review on Fridays where I look back at the last week, and then I also go forward and I set my calendar for the next week. What this does for me is it allows me to carve out time for the things that are most important.
Right.
It's that big rock story, right? Stephen Covey's big rock story. You get the most important things on your calendar first, and then you let the smaller things kind of fill in those gaps.
Right.
And when you're doing that, you're ensuring that you're getting those most important things done. And here's the key. That includes your personal stuff.
Yes.
So when I talk about the big important things, it's work-related and personal-related all on the same calendar. So if I have an event coming up that's important for me, my daughter's going to be in a state championship spelling bee or something, right? And that's Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I need to leave at 4:30 for that. I'm going to let my boss know, hey, boss, I need to leave at 4:30 on Friday, and I'm going to get it on my calendar.
Right.
It sounds simple, but people don't do it. And then what happens is a meeting comes up, gets thrown on their calendar, and it's an important meeting, and now they're calling the daughter saying, sorry, I'm not going to make the spelling bee. Or they got wrapped into a call that ran long, and they lost track of time because it wasn't on their calendar, they missed it. Those things happen once, twice, 10 times, 1,000 times over the course of a year. You're losing your integrity because you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it. So by using your calendar, you're putting it on there, you're saying you're going to do it, then you do it. That's integrity.
I love that. And when we were at the workshop, you brought that up. But my philosophy is if you're on time, you're late. And that's something I've been rolling with for a while. But then, how many times can you continue to not show up on time or, overbook yourself? It's integrity within yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're putting these false promises on your calendar, you're not executing the way you need to. With the most important things. Some things need to be moved over and pushed back a week or two as you work on those smaller activities, but when it's the most important ones and you're not holding yourself to a high level of accountability and you're not maintaining a level of integrity to the people around you within your contact sphere, you become discredited very quickly.
Yeah, and not only to external people but to yourself. What I find is, especially in the corporate world, is people are very good about keeping appointments with others.
Yes.
So, I've made a meeting with this person or that person, and because it's a professional relationship, I don't want to miss that meeting, so I'm really good about that. But they're very quick to give up on their personal appointments. And one of the things that's important for you to do as far as integrity is keep those appointments with yourself as well. Keep those appointments with yourself and others.
So we had Stephen Conking, which you've met and spoken with, a Denver business coach, and then also Yev Muchnick up at ESQ Legal. They both spoke about having having like I guess mental health and personal time, right? And scheduling that into their agenda so that way they can say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna get out and work out this morning, I'm gonna get out and work out this afternoon, or I'm allocate a specific lunch that's not being disruptive. A lot of people running around with their salads in their lap and everything like that, and or getting out and just having that quality time with their spouse or their kid. Is something that I know that I'm getting better at on a regular basis, but I know you spoke about that during your workshop to say that you have to find that time and put those blocks into your schedule and make them a top priority, most likely over work in most cases as well.
Absolutely. And whether it's prayer, it's meditation, it's exercise, or a combination of all those things, getting those times onto your calendar is important for you to make the commitment to it and then to keep that appointment with yourself. And if you do those things and you schedule the most important things for work on your calendar as well as your personal, you'll find you'll have the capacity to be more and do more for people than you would have if you were just scrambling all day and you're not giving yourself that time for recover, for mental health and focus, for focus on your faith and your family. Those things are very critical in order to keep your energy up, because otherwise you get that burnout. That's when you see people starting to say, I'm not so sure I like what I'm doing anymore. And you dig into that and you ask them about the job, and they love everything about the job.
Yeah.
They love what they do. They love the people they work with. So then you dig in deeper, and it's not that they're unhappy with the job at all. It's that they're burnt out and they're unhappy with the fact that they don't have that work-life balance because they haven't prioritized their calendar.
And it also keeps you from saying yes all the time.
Yes. Saying no is very important.
That's good. Well, Steven, we really appreciate you coming on board with us, here at Fluent Hustle. But before we sign off, what's the best advice that you can give to an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, an employee who might feel like that they're kind of going through the rat race? They might be in a level of complacency. They might have lost their direction of why they're doing what they're doing. What's something that you can encourage our community to snap back into it and move forward and find a higher level of achievement?
Well, it's not rocket science here. It's pretty elementary, and you might have heard it before. But the number one thing is make sure you're setting goals. And then here's the thing where most people miss. They'll set goals, but then they'll just forget about it from there.
Yeah.
The thing that's important is to set your goals and then keep them visible.
Yes.
So when I say goals, I mean work goals and personal goals. I shared this stat, previously, that only 5% of working adults actually write down their goals and keep them visible.
Wow.
And the reason that's sad is because it's proven if you write them down and keep them visible, you have a 90% better chance of achieving them. So what we do in our Take Back Your Life course, for example, when we're setting up tasks, is we create categories for your goals, personal and professional, and they're right at the top of the list, so they're always visible. And that's important. And whether you use Take Back Your Life methodologies or not, you can do it at home on a notepad. You can do it on the planner that you put out. They can put their goals right on there.
Yep.
Write them down, keep it visible. And then when you do a weekly review with yourself, you're just kind of touching base. How did last week go? What am I looking forward to the next week? You can touch base with yourself and see how you're doing on those goals, personal and professional. And keeping those things visible is key, because if you don't have that North Star, that thing that you're driving towards, what are you doing?
Yeah, you don't know what direction you're going, and sometimes you're just going in a circle.
And if you're trying to prioritize what are the important things that you're going to say yes to, don't you need to know what your ultimate goal is? Because when something comes across your desk, you have to make a decision. Is this related to a personal or professional goal? Because if it's not, you might want to consider saying no to that.
Yeah.
Why are you spending time on that?
Right.
So spend the time on the things that matter most. And it starts with having that North Star identified, those goals.
You also mentioned earlier off air about learning how to leverage a network by asking for what?
Yeah, asking for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Some people say that they have a level of pride that keeps them from it. Some people, it's nervousness about what the other person's going to say or think about them. Asking for help is huge, especially if you surround yourself with a positive network. So you're part of the Fluent Hustle gang, or you're in other networking events where you're meeting some great people through your church, through your friends. The good people you surround yourself with can become an advisory board for you.
Yes.
Informally.
Love that.
And asking for help. And you might be coming across a challenge in your business, large or small, that somebody in your network has either been through it before, they've coached somebody else through it, or they might be facing that same challenge. And if you can help each other out and just bounce those ideas, you'd be amazed at how much great information you get. And it all starts with just being able to say, hey, I need some help, or I need your advice on something.
I think one thing that resonates the most with me, I know one thing that resonates the most with me is, when I went to church, and I do not remember the complete message, but it was about asking for help. And it was about saying that, the human being at the innate soul needs help all the time, right? And if you can be humbled, and if you can just simply approach someone and say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling right now, whether it's a tough personal journey, maybe it's a business journey, maybe it's some other things that are going on in your life, but if you can just really take a moment and say, hey, you know what, I can't do this by myself. You can't build a team by yourself. You need a team of people to build with you, right? You can't build a company by yourself. You need the resources from a vendor, from a service provider, from some of your neighbors on speaking a good word and networking, everything like that. And I think what I love most about here in Colorado in particular is that this is a very collaborative community. But as technology brings us together from Denver to Chicago to worldwide, is that we have the resources at our fingertips. We just simply have to be willing to ask for help, and I think that's very impactful and important to make a difference within your life and your business itself.
And the one thing I would add to that is not only is it important to ask for that help, because not only can you receive the help you're looking for, but that vulnerability and approachability is great. You earn a lot of respect that way.
Yes.
But here's the one thing I would add to it, to bring it full circle. Not only ask for help when you need it, but provide help. Be a mentor to somebody, be open, listen. If you could be a great listener and hear the struggles or the pain that somebody's having, professional related or not, and you could be of assistance to somebody, and you do that one good thing every day, that's going to come back full circle. And that's what it's all about, being a good person in that group. You want to surround yourself with good people, you want to be that good guy in that group too. And that's how I run my life, and that's what's gotten me to where I'm at today, in a position of loving what I do and loving the people I do it with and for.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate you coming on to the show, Steve. It's
Thanks
been
for
phenomenal. I love being around you. Every time I get a chance to either text you, have a phone call, or have a one-to-one, face-to-face like we're doing here on the show, my gratitude bucket is filled up. But then you just give me more fuel to go out there and keep on doing what I need to be doing on a really basis. And what I'm really trying to focus on right now is using this as a platform to serve others, empower other entrepreneurs, promote what we're doing right here with McGhee Productivity Solutions so we can help you out, but then also use this as a level of encouragement to get other people to take action, and hopefully they got some great value from your time today. So we really appreciate you coming on board. Again, Ira Coleman, the founder of Fluent Hustle. We got Stephen Crawford here, senior consultant at McGhee Productivity. If you feel like you got great value out of this, please like, share, and comment. We're going to be following back up with a couple of links that you can get over to Stephen. And how can people best contact you?
Anyway, email is great, stephen.crawford@mcgeepro.com. LinkedIn, Facebook, however you want to reach me is great. We have a lot of material out there you can read up on and learn a little bit about us, but I'm always great for a phone call as well. And
if you can't get in touch with him directly, hit me up. I'll make the connection directly, but he's very, very good at following back up on his emails. And please know, it indicates he'll respond back within 24 to 48 hours, so don't expect immediate response in 5 minutes to text him or call him and say, hey, did you get my message? So
you obviously sat through one of my workshops. That's great.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Happy Monday. Have a great day. Get out there and find your success. Understand what's driving your purpose and find some more productivity within your life. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.